Hey y'all, welcome to Sandy's Library. I'm Sandy, and in this video we're going to talk about the Fullers. And we're going to start with my great-grandmother Lizzie Fuller's grandparents. These are my grandmother's people, and if you need visuals, there are links posted in the description outlining both of my grandparents' family trees. And it's also worth noting, this won't be the only Fuller video. So let's get started. My third great-grandfather, Archibald Fuller, was born about 1821 in Columbia County, Georgia. He was called Archie by his friends and family, so that's what we're going to call him too. He was the son of Thomas Fuller, born 1798, died in 1861, and Sarah Elizabeth Martin, born 1788. Sarah died in April of 1857. In October of that same year, Thomas remarried. And it's worth noting that he and Sarah had 3 children. They were all grown when she died. But anyway, back to their eldest son, Archie. He had a sister named Elizabeth and a brother named Abner, most certainly named after Thomas's father, Abner Fuller. According to census records, by the year 1840, the Fuller family had left Georgia and returned to Alabama, probably because of the family ties there, as Thomas was born in Alabama. Archie married Elizabeth Moseley, my third great-grandmother, around 1844, and most likely in Alabama. Elizabeth's family and friends called her Betty. She was born in September of 1825, and I believe her birthplace to be South Carolina. Some of my relatives believe she was born in Butler County, Alabama, but most of the census records list her birthplace as South Carolina, so that's the one I go with. Betty's parents were William Moseley, born 1794. He died in 1842, and Judea Cheatham, born 1796, and she died in 1846. She was oftentimes called Judy. I can tell you a lot about our Cheatham line, and I'll do that in a later video, but for now, Archie and Betty had a total of 10 children. They were Francis Marion, my ancestor, born in 1845, Thomas Jefferson, born in 1846, Sally Jane and her twin brother, James Matthew, born in 1848, George Washington, born in 1850, Archie Meads, born in 1851, Benjamin Franklin, born in 1854, Mary Elizabeth, born in 1857, Julia, born in 1859, and William, born in 1860. There is some question about when the Fuller family left Alabama and moved on to Mississippi. We do know that Archie's family was still in Alabama in 1860. But in 1870, they were in Winston County, Mississippi. And their son, their oldest son, Francis Marion, and his new bride Belle were living in Monroe County, Alabama, where in November of that year, my great-grandmother Lizzie was born. There also seems to be some confusion about why the Fullers left Alabama in the first place. But I'm going to tell y'all the story that I heard my grandmother and her older sister Julia Bell discussing many times when I was a kid. It was a story about how one of their mother's uncles, also a Fuller, had been stepping out with a woman who was either married or spoken for. And when her husband found out about it, well, as you can imagine, he showed up at the Fuller home looking for Lizzie's uncle. Only he wasn't at home. So this very pissed off husband storms off intending to go hunt down said uncle, which, as the story goes, he found him. An argument ensued, and said uncle ended up killing the husband. That night, when the sheriff showed up at Archie's house looking for the offender, it's said that the family hid him in the woodpile, telling the sheriff he wasn't home. So naturally the sheriff leaves, but not before declaring that he'll be back in the morning. So, knowing that the uncle would surely be arrested when the sheriff returned in the morning, I mean, you can't hide in a woodpile forever, so Archie, Betty, and most of their children's families packed up in the middle of the night and skulked away in the dark. And Sissy and Aunt Julie Bell would always laugh and laugh and laugh about how the Fullers had departed in such a hurry that they left the laundry, including sheets, hanging on the line. I still laugh every time I think about them laughing over that. But you know, who relayed this story to them, you might ask? Well, that'd be Grandma Fuller, the one and only Belle Hawkins, Lizzie's mother. And there is some circumstantial evidence to support the Fullers' exodus from Alabama, and there is definitely some reason why Archie and Betty's son, Marion Fuller and Belle Hawkins, were in Florida on September 10th, 1866, when they got married. Our half-cousin said he could never find Marion and Belle's marriage license. Well, he should have asked me. Here it is, right there. There it is. Their marriage license. Okay, so anyway, we can place Marion and Belle in Conecuh County, Alabama through church records in 1868. Their oldest child, my great-grandmother Lizzie, was born in Monroe County, Alabama in 1870, the same place where her mother, Belle Hawkins, was born. Archie and Belle and family are listed on the 1870 census in Winston County, Mississippi. I feel like since Marion and Belle married not all that long after the Civil War ended, and because of the exodus from Butler County, they might have tried to settle around the old plantation where Belle was born. However, like I said before, the plantation, like so many others, fell by the wayside after the war. And as an FYI, our half-cousin incorrectly identifies the plantation as the Hawkins plantation. But we'll talk more about that when we do Marion and Belle's video. But I just want to say it was not the Hawkins plantation. But so I feel like after Lizzie was born, Marion and Belle left the bad memories of Alabama behind and headed to Mississippi, because we do know that their next child, Emma Cardelli, that's the way I'm pronouncing it, was born in 1873 in Mississippi. And like I said, in 1870, we can find Archie and Betty in Winston County, Mississippi. I believe the reason Marion and Belle went to Mississippi after they gave up on Alabama was because that's where Archie's family had gone too. And by 1880, according to the U.S. Census, Marion and Belle are in Phoenix, Yazoo County, Mississippi. But anyway, we're going to get back to Archie and Betty. I just wanted to give a little clarification on the evidence, albeit circumstantial, that supports the family exodus. So I'm told the Fuller family, that they really liked Mississippi, but according to family tales, Archie and Betty were on the move again by 1883, where they landed in Indian Village, Louisiana, which is located along the border of Ouachita and Jackson parishes. This was up near Calhoun on Highway 144. The old Fuller place was said to have been located on the Vernon and Trenton Road near the post office. Unfortunately, I don't know where either of those places were located. I can't find a Vernon and Trenton Road anywhere around Indian Village, nor do I know where the old post office used to be located. By the time I came along, Indian Village's mail was delivered by the Calhoun post office. But I do know where Indian Village Methodist Church is. That's where Archie and Betty are supposed to be buried in unmarked graves. Our half-cousin says that the late Donna Fuller Lewis knew the location of Archie and Betty's graves and placed concrete blocks at the sites. It's also said that she marked the graves of Uncle Tom, Thomas Jefferson Fuller, and his wife, Sarah Griggs Fuller. I would love to know when that was supposed to have happened. I walked that cemetery in the early 2000s, and I saw no Fuller markers whatsoever. That said, Sissy always told me that she wasn't exactly sure where the graves were located, but she thought they were buried somewhere up around Indian Village because that's where Archie and Betty had settled. And because their graves aren't marked and they're not on any mortality schedules, we're just not sure when it was that they died. We can place Archie's death prior to the 1900 census because Elizabeth Fuller is listed as a widow on the 1900 census in Jackson Parish, Louisiana, where her birth date is listed as September 1825. So, if she's listed as a widow on the 1900 census, that is a source that Archie died prior to the census date of June 18th, 1900. But Archie and Betty's exact dates of death, I don't think we're ever going to have proof of either. And any information that Lizzie had in family Bibles about her own ancestors was destroyed in a fire long after she died, and none of her siblings' descendants have come forth with any solid death dates either that I am aware of. And while this is all the info that I have on Archie and Betty, I do know a bit more about their families, though, as they can be traced back to some of the earliest U.S. settlers. So, even though this is the end of Archie and Betty's video, I do have more to say regarding the Fullers and Mosleys, so at some point you can expect to see more videos on them. But for now, in the next video, we'll move up one generation to Archie and Betty's son, Francis Marion Fuller, and his wife, Nancy Isabella Hawkins, the people in the marriage certificate. They were Lizzie's parents. It's also worth noting that Marion and Belle Fuller figure prominently in upcoming videos about the Williams family, so it's best to get an idea of who they were and where they came from straight out of the gate. So, until next time, later Gators.